Hello, it's good to be here. My name is Samantha and I have 3 projects to show you today. If you've been watching my videos, you will know that I've been sewing a number of Tilly and the Buttons patterns. I've got all 3 of her books, and today I'm going to bring you one of the projects from her book as well as another pattern which I've been sewing. So this is the book here. And the pattern that I made, and I made 2 of them, is this pattern. It's called the Tabitha t-shirt. What it is, I made it out of 2 fabrics. So the one that I'm wearing is one of them, and another one I made out of red fabric, which I will show you in a couple of minutes. Sewing is my hobby, so it doesn't form part of my full-time job. So the only 2 days a week that I have to do any sewing is Saturday and Sunday. And we all know Saturday morning is taken up by normal chores like shopping and that kind of thing. I thought I would take Tilly's tips for speed sewing. So what I did is I looked at 2 different projects and I looked at what was similar about them to see if I could maybe sew them together as a batch, and so I did. I really enjoyed trying out this batch sewing. It really is a time saver, unless of course you don't follow the instructions properly and you have to unpick 3 sets of the same mistake. Aside from that, I can definitely recommend batch sewing if you've got a number of t-shirts or a number of dresses cut on the same or very similar patterns. So what I did is I got a red fabric, this t-shirt here, and I've got a lovely teal fabric for my daughter's dress. By the way, these patterns only use 1 meter of fabric each. That's a really handy thing to know. So the way that Tilly constructs her Tabitha t-shirt, which is this one here, is she sews the shoulder seams first, then she finishes the neck, and then she actually attaches the sleeves in the flat pattern method. I can definitely recommend this, especially if you're a beginner sewer with stretch fabric. As you know, it's quite difficult as a beginner to get a round armhole over your overlocker and able to get the foot flat and stretch everything all at the same time. But if the pattern is done on the flat, it's much easier because you only start at one end and finish at the other instead of having to sew in a loop. So the little girl's dress pattern which I sewed is this one here, and I can definitely recommend it. It's easy to put together, and the pattern that I chose, which is C, only used 1 meter of fabric. Jessica is delighted with it. In fact, she won't take it off, and I haven't managed to get a picture of her in it, but I will show a picture in the inset. The Tabitha t-shirt I'm really happy with. It's a good fit. I sewed a size 6 for myself, and I think scuba is a really good choice. The only thing that I would say is that perhaps scuba is not the best choice for summer because it's pretty warm here in the loft and I'm baking, to be honest. But that being said, I think for winter scuba is an excellent choice because it gives it a more luxurious look. You can wear this more formally because, as you can see, it doesn't actually crease that much, and depending on the fabric you choose, you could pair it with virtually anything. The next project that I'd like to try perhaps is to try the dress version of the Tabitha dress, purely because I really like the way the shoulders fit and how the whole bodice fits. This is the red version that I made of the Tabitha shirt. As you can see, it came out really nicely. The neckline lays nice and flat. I bought this fabric at my local fabric shop. It's called A&M Textiles in High Wycombe. I can definitely recommend it. They have a really good range of fabrics, and the other thing I will say is I've actually done some price comparisons and they're really not bad for price. In fact, it compares with a number of online retailers. This fabric here, I actually bought this fabric on eBay, and I would definitely recommend eBay for buying scuba. I don't know what it is, but they have such a range of really well priced scuba fabric, and I haven't worked my way through their complete collection yet. I will definitely be buying more, and I will definitely be showing you more of their projects. This red fabric, I believe, is a jersey with spandex in it, and as you can see, it's really stretchy. This fabric is quite thick, and I think it would actually work really well if you wanted to do, for example, a bodycon dress. I don't know if you can tell, but this kind of fabric would actually hide a multitude of sins, and if you sewed a double lining, you could actually make it one of those dresses to hold everything in. A little bit like shapewear, if you like. So for this pattern, as well as I would say for any stretch pattern, the thing that I've learned more by doing than by reading is that the trick is to use lots and lots of pins. So where you have two different lengths, if you like, next to each other, good example is the neck, because the neck is usually made shorter than the hole that it fits into. So what you'll end up with, when you've sewn this as a loop, if you like, you land up with this being smaller than where you're actually going to sew it into. So what I recommend, as per her book, you pick the two sides, so for example on this seam and this seam, and then you pull the whole garment out so that you get the middle and the back, and then you pin. And from there on, you stretch it and you pin everything in halves. And if you pin everything in halves, you'll see that the bodice will wrinkle and this will be flat. And then as you sew, you stretch it to pull the fabric straight, obviously removing the pins as you go. Two things that I think help that are not really shown or spoken about in her book is if this part, if you sew this shut once you've sewn the seam at the back without trimming anything, it behaves as one item, and if you use your overlocker to do it, it will stretch freely so that you can make it match the bodice. The other thing is, when you do the first seam to sew it in, don't trim. What you do is you sew it in and you check it all fits. You try the shirt on and you see if you're happy with the way the seam lays. Obviously your stitching and everything will be showing, and this won't be the right width. What you then do is you put it back in the machine and then you sew another pass, stretching it as you go so everything lines flat, and then you trim it at that stage. And I think you get a much better finish. Also, once you've trimmed the seam, you can't actually do much with it, especially if the seam hasn't come out straight. If you sew the seam before without trimming, you always have the opportunity to unpick it if you've made a really bad mistake. The other thing that I like about Tilly's method of assembling these shirts is that she sews the side seams last. Now, if you've looked at other dresses and the order of construction that you get in a lot of dresses, often you sew the bodice, you sew the skirt, and then you join them at the waist. That's great for putting a garment together, but if you want to, for example, take it in at the sides, as sometimes I end up doing because I tend to like a slimmer fit usually than the pattern shows, if you've actually sewn the seam under the arms last, what you'll find is it's actually easier to make an adjustment. You can literally put it in the overlocker and skim a small amount off, and you can keep doing that and testing the fit until you get it fitted to your body, or even tighter if that's what you like. The other tip that I have is I actually cut the sleeves longer than the pattern shows, and I'm actually glad I did, because I don't normally like very, very short sleeves. The Frankie tee that I made previously was different. It's really nice, and that's really nice for casual. But this, at this length, I can wear it semi-formal, or I could wear it completely casual, and I tend to like a longer sleeve length. Perhaps you'll ask, is there anything that I would change about these three projects? Yes. I think firstly I would line up 3 projects that don't require 3 different color threads for the top stitching. And the other thing I think I would do, I think I would buy myself some red overlocker thread so that my inside of the garment can look as neat as the outside of the garment. And I would definitely sew similar fabric colors so that I can use the same thread throughout for all 3 projects. As you know, recently I sewed a red shirt and I sewed a long sleeve shirt of the McCall's shirt. My next project is probably going to be a short sleeve slim fit version of that shirt. I found myself a pattern, and once I've selected the fabric I will show you what I come up with. If you like my videos, please subscribe, and if you want to find any information about any of the fabrics or any of the links, please look below the description down in the video. On the YouTube panel, there's what looks like a down arrow next to the description, and you can actually open a whole lot of text over there and you can see more information about this. Also, you can visit my blog at Sew and Everything Else. If you just search for that on Google, as you can see on my logo, you will find me. There's more information and more pictures about what I've done for these 3 projects. Until next time, bye.